I got this kit through BUYEE, link in the description. Don't let anyone ever tell you how to live your life. Especially about how acronyms work. The Meteor unit, the ultimate nuke exploding machine. I mean, seriously, what is cooler than a nuclear-powered bipedal war machine absolutely covered in guns? Well, of course, a nuclear-powered bipedal war machine covered in guns strapped to an even bigger war machine covered in even bigger guns. And that is essentially what this right here is. The Mobile Suit Embedded Tactical Enforcer, or the Meteor unit for short, is actually so cool it got both an a cappella version of Ana ni Ishodate no ni and a brand new song by TM Revolution on just its first launch in the anime. I mean, name another mobile suit or mobile armor that has an actual song by an actual Japanese artist with an actual video named after said mobile suit, because I don't think that there is any more than this one. And winding back a couple of sentences, and speaking of Ana ni Ishodate no ni, I have a question for you guys. Who, or should I say which anime did it better? Gundam Seed transitioning into the outro with that Seesaw song, or G-Witch transitioning into the outro with Red Birthmark? You decide in the comments right now. Do it. But yeah, anyway, back to the kit itself. I was feeling like building a big gunpla. I mean, it feels so long since the Neo Zeon came out, which was the last truly big gunpla. And there is the re-release of the Dendrobium coming up sometime later in the year, maybe December? I'm not too sure. But in the interim, I wanted something that was a little bit chunky, but still something that could go with a 1/44th scale collection, and that's why I went for the Meteor unit. So yeah, this kit right here, it's not a new release by any margin whatsoever. Actually, it came out in 2004. So if you're finding it hard to get one for yourself, just like I was, you can probably get it through BUYEE, where I got mine. This retailed at a price of 8,000 yen, and I grabbed it off of there at 8,900, which is not so bad for an almost 20-year-old kit. And when I say this is 20 years old, I think this might be an actual 20-year-old version of this kit. I don't think it's a reprint. It's got the red Bandai label. This box feels and looks kind of old, and usually when it comes to kits that are pre-2010, I tend to get a little bit on the nervous side, and spoiler, it kind of ends up looking like a toy. But yeah, on finally actually getting the box open, there's a lot less plastic inside of this than I was expecting for such a big box. It is a high grade, but I expected it to be a complex high grade. That it isn't. So speaking of the build, let's wind it back and check it out. So when it comes to the build of the Meteor unit, this might be a little bit on the large side, but it is very, very, very extremely simple. When it comes to the manual, this isn't even long at all. It's only a few pages, and that is for the build of the Meteor unit, as well as the included Freedom Gundam. Yes, this is the high-grade Meteor unit plus Freedom Gundam, the 2003 version of Freedom Gundam. I'll talk about that thing later. But yeah, this is a very, very simple build with a lot of large parts. But it isn't very straightforward, really, in a lot of ways. It is simple, but it does suffer a lot from some gunpla issues that we just don't have anymore with recent releases. And speaking of some of the old school build issues you just don't see anymore, number 1, parts that can be attached in backwards or into the wrong places. This kit is probably the one I've had to part separate the most while building out of any kit I've ever built. There's just parts that can go in plain backwards, or polycaps in the Freedom Gundam, which I'll talk about later, that can actually go into the wrong place but look exactly like the other ones. You can't really build this or the Freedom by eye like you can with newer kits that you can't put anything in wrong anymore. They've been designed that things just go where they're meant to and can't be put anywhere else or backwards. That's not the case with this kit. 2. Balancing acts. So balancing acts is what I call when you've got a part or parts that are held in by the two parts either side of them. So that means when you're actually trying to close some parts together, you have to hold it in place. Like you feel like you need 3 arms. You don't have 3 arms. I assume you don't have 3 arms. I don't have 3 arms, so they can be a bit difficult. This part right here, you can just kind of lay it down on the table and then kind of snap the 2 parts together, but it's not the worst I've ever seen, but you won't see those in new kits. 3. Color separation, ? Yeah, there's a lot of big blank areas on this kit, so like the basic color separation is there, but for a lot of it there just isn't anything, especially anything inside of it. Missiles, no color separation. Vents, no color separation. Really though, you kind of just get the pink and the kind of whitey gray color, that's all. 4. Finger cramps. This thing has parts that are so hard to push together. I mean, so hard to push together. Sometimes I have to grab a pliers to actually push the parts together. And then, sometimes some parts won't line up, so it actually clips together with some parts not clipped together, and it is nearly impossible to pry apart if you screw it up. Kits don't do that anymore. So yeah, be very careful and follow the instructions closely. 5. Seam lines everywhere. So yeah, most kits have seam lines on them, but this is one of those kind of old school kits that I feel like they were only able to print detail from one direction and one direction only, like the top of the runner. So any element is split in two. So weapons split in two. General parts split in two. Everything is bisected by this line that runs through a part all over the place. This is seam line hell. From a distance you don't really notice them, but it does have some issues like what I'm going to mention in a little bit. 6. Sticker hell. And not for the reason you'd expect. Yes, there are a lot of stickers. That does kind of suck, but they're not really that bad. Besides one issue. This kit is from 2004, and I feel like the version I have is actually from 2004, which means the stickers in here don't stick anymore. So I was trying to avoid some of the stickers by actually just kind of coloring them in with Gundam markers. That's usually what I do, which is pretty cool. And that did work out for the grays on this. I got an incredibly good dark grey Gundam marker. It came in the MSV set, this one right here. It's called dark grey and it does exactly what it needs to do. It seems to just mix perfectly, comes out of the marker perfectly, the coverage is absolutely perfect, and it just works so well. And this is that usual Gundam shade of grey that you'll see on inner frames, etc. So it matches perfectly. It seriously is a 10 out of 10 Gundam marker. Not all Gundam markers are created equal, some are good, some are bad. This is a fantastic one. Anyway, a surprisingly short period of snipping and snapping later, and despite its shortcomings, I'm actually kind of impressed by this kit. It's by no means fantastic, but for the date this came out, it is impressive. What you need is there, the structure, the foundation is there. This 100% looks like the Meteor unit. Sure, it might be a little bit shiny and toyish looking. I feel like I had toys in the 80s that kind of looked like this. It doesn't look like a serious model kit just yet, but it does have the detail where it needs it. The detail all over this is lost for the most part. It looks so good. There's even like cool printed patterning into some areas, all just lost in that sea of grayish white plastic. This is a kit that out of box will not look good at all. It will need some extra effort. To look fantastic or really good, it's going to need a whole lot of effort. But like I mentioned, 90% of the colors are there, the silhouette looks fantastic, and overall it does the basics and the things that it needs to do. But yeah, that is enough about that. Let's jump into the aesthetics properly and check out what we got in the end. So anyway, that right there is what the high-grade Meteor unit looks like out of box just snapped together. The only thing I did, like you saw, was use the grey Gundam marker on that section on the top, one as well underneath. That would have been grey stickers if you actually built it using everything inside of the box. Besides that, this is exactly what you will get. Like I mentioned, it does have a bit of a ridiculous kind of toy-like shine, because the plastic is definitely rough and tough, like something you would actually see in some actual toys. The brightness and the shine kind of dulls a lot of the detail too, so you can't really see it at first glance, but when you do get in there, this is very intricate and very nicely done. The panel lining and the detailing molded into this is fantastic. You will definitely need to bring that out, at least to do this kit a little bit of justice. But there's some other stuff that's done on here that I've never seen the likes of before. Like this right here, we've got this kind of patterning. It's molded onto the surface. Now, this could probably come up really nice depending on the way you're going to line it or paint it or whatever, but once again it is a little bit lost on the actual kit itself. With some harsh lighting you can actually see it, but not too well. Again, completely lost here. At that kind of micro level, all of the detail is really nice, but we do have some issues at the more macro level. For example, we've got some weak issues that they just wiggle a bit. These guys right here, they're just held on by weird polycaps, so they don't really hold too well. Also, like I mentioned, all the seam lines running all over the place. Some paint got into one of them on me. They just don't look the greatest. So closing these up would definitely make it look a whole lot nicer, but a good paint job should definitely do that. So this is definitely a kit aesthetically that out of box just does not look that great in its current format, which really was the status quo for kits back in 2004. I guess the best way to put it is, aesthetically, all the foundations are here to make this look fantastic, but you will have to put in the extra effort. Out of box, it's a little underwhelming, but there is so much potential. But yeah, the Meteor unit is more of a support module or a module for using with a Gundam itself, and like we saw already, there is a Gundam included, which is the high-grade Freedom Gundam. This one, the 2003 version. So all I can say is, Gunpla building back in 2003 seems like it was a real grim affair. This kit, wow. This is the least fun I've ever had building a kit ever. Full stop. Ever. It's just like, it has none of the magic that really made me fall in love with Gunpla as a hobby. It really is just the most basic model kit around. Now, I know there's way more basic ones, all the way back to 1980 or 1979 when the original plastic model kit would have came out. But yeah, Gunpla building back in 2003 must have been a bit of a grim affair. I know this was probably as good as it was back then, but it is crazy how far Gunpla has come in the last 20 years. Honestly, it just makes me excited to see what Gunpla will be like in another additional 20 years. I cannot wait. But yeah, this is an incredibly simple kit. I didn't enjoy building it personally. It's just 2 parts for every element, again seam lines through everything. The color separation is very weak and it just doesn't feel too fun to build at all. For the sake of example, that right there is what the revived version of the high grade looks like. So of course, if you're going out to get a high grade Freedom Gundam for yourself, I highly recommend this updated version. I can't remember what year it came out, but I'll pop it up on the screen right now. And there is a little bit of a side-by-side between the two. Now, I will mention I didn't use any of the stickers on this particular kit because I'm not sure if I'm even going to use this kit with the Meteor unit, but the stickers in here, woo! Now, these put the foil in foil sticker. These are all completely foiled. Actually, under this light, they look like they're solid colors. They are not. Let's see if I can find a better light. Maybe there you can get a little bit of a better idea, but these are not solid colors. These are outright fully metallic. The whole thing. So if you use any of these reds, for example, those ones right there, which are Ko and Sa, those are for using on the upper shoulders right here. These are just blank in white. Notice the seam line again running right through the shoulders. But yeah, that part right there, that should be in red, like what we're seeing right here on the Revive, with a nice solid red plastic there. Most colors you're seeing on here is plastic, but yeah, it should be like that. I can't even imagine what it looks like in reflective metallic red. Woo! Also, that right there is the Revive's beam rifle, and it should have a blue stripe down the middle, but otherwise it looks quite good. You know, it's not a bad looking beam rifle. A little bit more detailing up, it'll look great. I shit you not, this is the one that comes with the old high grade, so yeah. Whoa. I know these old kits won't so modern kits can run, but this really shows you just how far Gunpla has come along. So as for attaching the Freedom into this unit, well, first off, you need to actually set it up. We've got these 2 big guns which pull out and pull forward. They work quite well. We can flip this whole section back like this, again works well, but then this under part here, this can't flip back past the action base, which is a little bit annoying. So you do have to take it off in order to flip it back and then attach it back onto the base, but still it does work. As for getting the actual Freedom onto it itself, this is extremely simple, dare I say a bit on the rudimentary side. Basically, there's no actual clip or attachment here. You just lift up the wings like so, and you just pop it in. You just pop it in, that's all. We've got 2 little cradly bits that it just rests onto. That is it, it's just loose, hanging about. Then, when it does come to the additional attachments, we've got these little handles here, which aren't full handles. These don't actually be held onto at all, which in a way is kind of good. You don't have to disassemble the hands. These just kind of pop in somewhat awkwardly into the hands and kind of hover. The hands just kind of hover around them. They can't fall out, they're kind of clipped in, but they're not actually holding onto anything. And what we get in the end, funny enough, just like this entire unit, well, it works out in the end. Oh, as for the accessories that we actually have with this, these can actually be stored on this, which is very handy. First up, that beam rifle, which we saw already, all cast in this one shade of grey. We've got a moving handle below, as well as the shield, not fully accurate. It's missing a lot of red, with a rotating bit for attaching it to the arm round back. Those can be attached onto both sides of the stand, which is very handy for storage. However, this actual crime against Gunpla right here, this beam saber with hand attachment all cast in white, that that is nowhere to be stored. I guess that one goes in the bin. So that right there is what the Meteor unit looks like with the included freedom attached into it. So this does look pretty good. Sure, the freedom is a little bit on the simple side, but it's so recessed into something that's so large, it's not really something you'd notice so much unless you're really scrutinizing it in closely. So it does work out, and I've only got one question. Can this thing stand up to some turbulence? Because there's not much holding them in. Turns out that it can. So if the old high grade can fit in it, my question is, can the newer high grade Revive fit in it? Well, they're kind of the same, even though this scale is a little bit off. Maybe it might just work. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, that is flip up the wings just like so. Try and attach him in and, ooh, looking like a no. The reason for that is these little bottom section of the wings, these don't actually have any articulation. They're like directly attached into the actual mecha itself. So that does mean they're lacking the up and down. You'd need to get them out of the way. But if you actually move them down and move the upper wings up further, you can kind of slot them in there. But this does feel like it's putting a little bit of pressure on the somewhat delicate feeling wings here. But you can kind of get him in there. When you try to attach his hands onto the hand-holdy parts, the hands on this kit are that little bit smaller that they don't actually clip in. So that means it's not held in properly under its chest, it's not holding on right at the hands. This isn't really working out. However, I do know there is a premium Bandai version of this particular kit available. Not sure if it's for using with this Revive or for using with the real grade, but maybe something about that is different. But if you want to use this kit with the new Revive, it will not really work without some kind of modification. As for what the rest of the Meteor unit can do right here, we've got a whole ton of different opening missile containers. That is 2 up front. These are completely in purple inside. The individual missiles should be in red, so those will have to be painted. They open up super simply. We've got 2 sets of missile containers a little further back. These open up with 2 doors in pink. The inside is all in gray. Once again, the missiles are meant to be in red, so you will have to paint those too. Besides that, we've got more missiles, even more missiles, up on the back segment right here. 3 of these compartments can open up ever so slightly, and again, unpainted missiles, or should I say uncolor separated missiles, up inside of those. We've got some rotating cannons on the sides. Lastly, then we do have some moving flappy segments around back at the thrusters. So we've got some up top and up bottom. These move ever so slightly, not much at all. We've got some towards the outside. These move quite a bit, these smaller ones. And I'll also mention we do have these smaller ones on the inside as well with the same articulation in the build, but they just can't move because of the general design of this thing. A bit strange. So the last thing that we have in here are these absolutely massive beam effects. These are for the MAX200 beam swords. According to the blurb about these are a pair of large beam swords that are emitted from the movable arm units. They provide the Meteor with close combat capabilities and can easily cut through warships and mobile suits. These are absolutely huge and almost double the length of this entire thing. It is massive. These attach on easily enough, make sure they're the right way up, and they hold in very securely and don't throw off the balance. I am actually impressed. Finally, there is the Gundam Aerial for a size comparison with these beams. They are absolutely huge. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and what can I say? This is better than I thought it would be. Sure, I'm going to get the negative aspects out of the way first. It does look a little bit toy-like. There's a lot of details that will need to be detailed up. And the build is definitely extremely simple. So if you're looking for something that's going to take you a long time with a lot of detail, this is definitely not it. However, on the flip side, this right here is a project. So if you want something that's going to take you a lot of time when you're putting in the extra effort, this will be it. If you don't like seam lines, that's going to take a long time to fill all of those in. Detailing this up would be a lot of fun. Panel lining, even painting some individual different colors on the panels and everything would be fantastic. There's a lot of small details to fill in if you like painting those sort of things like the missiles, vents, etc. This could look fantastic. But yeah, at the end of the day, this is a 20-year-old kit that feels like it is 20 years old. It will need the additional effort to look good on a shelf, but if you do put that in, I'm sure this will definitely look fantastic. Anyway, I got mine through BUYEE. There's a link in the description if you want one too. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more gunpla reviews, and I'll see you next time. Once again, this video right here, and none of these videos would be possible without each and every single one of you guys who watches my videos, and special thanks to those of you who are supporting me over on Patreon and here on the channel memberships, including 10 Soldier YT, Caleb Engelhart, Dashil Marmion, Go Little Rockstar, Joe, Lauren Seahack, RG59061, and Van Fawn.